right, welcome into 305 Guys of the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick at 5 Reasons Sports. I got Alex Donno. You can follow him at Alex Donno. We are sponsored here by Prize Picks. A couple things we want to tell you about with our fantasy partner. First, use the code 5. You get $50 to play. Also, running a contest right now on the 5 Reasons Sports Twitter account. The person, if you sign up with the code 5, you have to be signed up with our code. But whoever is closest to Bam's points, rebounds, and assists tonight, I think the number's 33.5. I think he went 35 in the last game. So whoever's closest to his PRA tonight will get an additional 25 in promo funds. So just go sign up, use the code 5, get your $50, and then we're going to tack 25 on top if you win the contest. So just got to go to the 5 Reasons Sports Twitter account. I tweeted it out. I'm going to pin it at the top of the page. Make it easy for you to find. But use code 5, FIVE. Also, they've got a free draft contest for tomorrow. We'll be promoting that tomorrow, and that is free to enter. So, again, get on the code, Prize Picks, use the code 5, and you can play all this stuff on Prize Picks. So, we've got two teams in the playoffs here, the Panthers and the Heat. We're going to talk Heat first today, Alex. We're going to have Alex Baumgartner, who covers the Panthers for us for 5 Reasons Sports, on with us at 1:15. And we'll catch up on the Panthers win last night in Tampa. The Heat played tonight after a 22-point Game 1 loss. Did a podcast with Alex Toledo about the adjustments that Spoelstra can make. Let me just ask you this question because this is more of an overarching question. When you're at a talent deficiency, which they are, there's no question about this. This team they're playing is better than they are. How much of a difference can a coach's adjustments actually make? Have we seen series where teams are clearly overmatched from a talent perspective, but the coach evens it up? Does that even exist?
I believe it does, and I believe that is a forte of Erik Spoelstra. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that Spo is so long tenured and why he's respected the way that he is. I mean, this wasn't just a guy that like waltzed into a situation where he had LeBron, Wade, and Bosh together for a few years and won a couple championships. I mean, he's proven his salt, whether it be great rosters that he's achieved with or not good rosters that he has overachieved with. So what you just outlined, Ethan, I mean, to me, when you're the underdog and you're in a talent deficiency, I think adjustments are everything. And I also think that I look at the silver lining of, I mean, obviously you never want to lose a game, and the Heat got pretty much handled in Game 1. You never want that, but I guess the advantage you would give to the losing coach would be it's really up to Spo to make his adjustments, more so than the Cleveland side. So he's going to have to go to the idea factory and come up with something for tonight, and hopefully whatever he comes up with gives Tyler Hero a little bit more space to shoot. I know is one of those big things to emphasize coming out of Game 1, but no, that is something that I truly believe in. And also to have, more so the coach than the roster, although, some of the guys on this roster have been to the NBA Finals before multiple times. So you do have that playoff experience. I think that's also something that comes into play big time for Spo is he knows what it means to go through that grind of having the emphasis on making adjustments after losing a playoff game because he's done it, more times than just about anyone else has done. So, yeah, I firmly believe in it.
Well, 10-3 in Game 2s after Game 1 losses. So that's a good stat. But do need to take into consideration that a lot of those years he had the better team that just lost a Game 1 that maybe it shouldn't have lost. I mean, you take a look at some of the big three teams. They lost some Game 1s, but then would respond in Game 2. I do think
how he came up with the whole gentleman sweep obsession, right?
Yes.
How many Game 1s did they lose, and then you
can't be Heat in 5 without losing a game, right? So they've lost their game. Although I do not think it's going to be Heat in 5, but they're overmatched in this series. I think we saw in the first game there are a number of different ways Cleveland can beat you. In that first game, it was all guards. It was not just Mitchell and Garland, but also Jerome. Mobley and Allen only combined for 21 points. They didn't get a lot from the kind of their rotation of wings where they have Strus, Okoro, and DeAndre Hunter at that other spot, but they did obviously get a lot out of Jerome. He had 28 of their 34 points off the bench. So I think there are other ways Cleveland can beat you. I think there is going to come to a point in this playoffs where Cleveland runs into a team it can't beat. Probably going to be Boston. Yeah. But Miami, as far as they have to go, to me, what they have to do is they got to lean into their identity and they got to junk it up on defense. And that's why I say start Mitchell tonight. Davion again, Davion against either Donovan or Garland, so that you take that off of Tyler's plate. I feel like the only way he's going to be able to get going offensively is he's not hunted on every possession defensively. So if Mitchell's going to play, if your guy Davion Mitchell's going to play 35 to 37 minutes, just start the game with him. I start the game with him, and I bring Jovic off the bench. Burks is probably the guy that gets left out of the rotation. But as much as you want the spacing and the starting lineup, and I understand it, I just think you need the lead in defense. And, Burks at best is an average defender. Tyler, we know, is a below average defender. That can't be what you go with in this situation against this team. So I would start Davion. I'd play Jovic off the bench to get a little bit more playmaking. It appears that he's ready. And look, you hope that you catch Cleveland being a little overconfident here. You catch a hot shooting night. I don't think that the Cavs are so good that the Heat are going to get swept in this series.
Yeah.
I just think it's going to be difficult to then replicate a formula game after game. I think Spo's going to have to be pretty creative about this stuff and how he handles it. Also, look, Bam was fine in game one. He needs to be the best big on the floor, clearly. I just think he needs to outplay. It's kind of unfair, but he needs to kind of outplay both Mobley and Allen. And Ware needs to be playable because Ware was not really playable in game one, and hopefully
2 points.
Hopefully he learns from it. Let's get to something before we get into the rest of this stuff. We're gonna have Alex Baumgartner on after the break. The NBA playoffs in general so far, I'm not surprised that the Clippers series with Denver is getting the most attention, although it's been put on NBA TV tonight.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not even sure if I have NBA TV. I've switched my
my
streaming services. Is that on YouTube? I think it's on YouTube TV, actually, NBA TV. It's NHL Network is the one I don't get.
Okay, I'm what, you got me on an aside here, but I'm going to mention this. I literally spent 45 minutes yesterday trying to figure out if I could get the Panther game. And because I have ESPN Plus, but you couldn't get it on ESPN Plus. So I paid for ESPN Plus.
It was on regular. Oh, maybe because I'm in a different market. Maybe it was on a regular ESPN. Yeah.
No, but I don't have regular.
I don't have finding the Panther game.
I don't have regular ESPN, so somebody's got to help me with it because I cut the cord and I'm just doing streaming services now. And then supposedly I have Hulu, but I don't have Hulu. I don't know how to pay. So I literally spent 30 to 45 minutes trying to find the Panther game and just gave up on it last night. That's why.
Yeah, like a few years ago, I tried to completely cut the cord.
Yeah.
But then it didn't really work for me. So my compromise was let me do YouTube TV because it's it's not technically cable or satellite, right?
Right.
But it's the same thing. It's the same thing with a different name is what it is.
Well, and the other thing that Max does to you, and I just upgraded yesterday, was it used to be you could get the NBA games on Max that were on Turner.
Yeah.
And of course, Turner doesn't have the package next year, but but now you have to upgrade for the live streaming on that. So I spent the extra $8 to watch the Lakers demolish Minnesota, and I'll be canceling that soon. Here we go. Let's see. This comes in from Mac Mon. We got a couple of comments in here, and then we'll get to the Panther conversation. Bam was the best big man in game one. It didn't matter. The Heat have to take more threes. No, I agree with that, but I also think they need to feature Bam a little bit more early. And I say that again because the way that they're guarding Tyler, and the way that Tyler's going to be handled in this series, I just think they need to engage Bam as much offensively early in the game, even if he's inefficient. I'm trying to get him to his spots because if they're going to be relying on Tyler to carry them in this thing, it's not going to
get the Cleveland big men into foul trouble if you can.
And then let's see what Adam says. The Heat will do tonight what the Panthers did last night, I hope. Well, if they only take 16 shots, that they're probably in trouble because that's what the Panthers took last night. But the Panthers, of course, scored 6 goals on it. I do think the Heat will be competitive tonight. Yeah. I think ultimately the Heat will win game 3. I think that's my lean on this. They win the Saturday 1:00 game. Cleveland comes in. Maybe some of the guys go out late at night. We saw that last time when Cleveland came in. Yeah. And again, if you live in Cleveland and you get them Friday night in Miami, it literally, if I were Kobe Altman and the management on Cleveland, I would fly in at 7 a.m. on Saturday. Yeah. Right. Have a lonely night in Ohio and then catch a plane in the morning because Friday night is in Miami is not where you go. So I'm picking the Heat in game 3. That's my That's my prediction there.
South
All right,
Beach
so
Blue is never wrong.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, I never go to. Does anybody from Miami actually go to? Who doesn't? Does anybody go to South Beach anymore from who lives here?
I mean, you're talking to the wrong guy because I have no life, but like, but I mean, I will go out like once every 4 years. I will go out to South Beach, and I see it's 90% tourists. Like it's I mean, I'm sure there's some locals that go, but it's also like, if you're a local that goes, you better be making like 7 figures if you go out there often with the price of things out there. But yeah, it's mostly tourists.
Yeah, now Brickell has become South Beach.
Also, yeah, for sure.
That's right. Go to Sexy Fish for a meal and come out of there spending $600. All right. Anyway, we're gonna talk Panthers on the other side of this. We got Alex Baumgartner in the background now waiting. We do want to tell you about a great sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network, our friends over at All Pro Construction Builders. Whether you live on South Beach, Coral Gables, Pembroke Pines, Boca Raton, Delray Beach, Fort Lauderdale, you got to get your place protected. Before hurricane season starts up, they can service the entire Tri-County area. All Pro Construction Builders, plenty of 5-star reviews on Google, local business. Danny and his family, they take care of everything for you, give you a free estimate. And if you mention 305 guys, 5 on the floor, or the 5 Reasons Sports Network, you also get 5.5% off your entire bill. So reach out to Danny today. Check out the Instagram. It's All Pro Construction Builders. Give him a call at 305-484-4429. That's 305-484-4429. Get the best deal on protection for your house as hurricane season comes up. All right, we got Alex Baumgartner. You can catch his coverage on 5reasonsports.com, which is our website, which I never mention enough. He did a big preview with the Keys for Game 1, and he'll be at Game 3 here when the series turns back to Florida. Of course, the NHL and NBA have decided in their infinite wisdom to put the Panthers and the Heat on not only in the same day, but exactly the same time. But,
I will say one thing. Like, okay, it's for the home games, it sucks because you can only go to one, right? I mean, but I mean, people like, and I love Barry Jackson, but like when he puts out these columns, he makes it sound like there's no possible way to watch both games. It's like, dude, I can, split the screen, bro. I mean, some people have second TVs. On my YouTube TV, I can watch a double box of games. So it's like, it's not a huge catastrophe, right? But it does suck, though, if they play a home game the same exact night, which is happening, because, you can only go to one.
And not only the same night, literally the same day, the same time. It's at 1 o'clock.
That sucks.
All right, so 16 shots last night, 6 goals, Alex. Going to the other Alex here. I don't think we expected that. Tkachuk looked just fine. He had 2 goals. Ekblad's coming back for Game 3. Can you explain to me when the two teams had very similar regular seasons and one just won the Cup and was getting Tkachuk back and Ekblad back and has added Brad Marchand to the team from last year, why it was that 18 out of 24 on ESPN picked Tampa in this series? Why was that?
So I think the running thing the last couple of years is doubt the Florida Panthers. People at Big Network were saying they weren't even going to make the postseason last year, and we saw what happened there. A big talking point coming to this series was the Cup fatigue. Are the Panthers going to be drained by the time they get to the postseason? Which is very funny considering they've been resting their guys off and on for the better part of the last 2 weeks. And then they had what felt like a month-long break between the last regular season game and Game 1 of the playoffs. I mean, the game was like an 8:50 local time puck drop. Besides that, it's very rare that a team makes it back-to-back Stanley Cup finals, much less 3. So I do understand that talking point, but we're in the first round. The Panthers have been resting guys. They have guys that a lot of guys on this team weren't there last year, specifically those depth forwards. And then even some of the defensemen like an Uvis Belinskis that was on the team last year didn't play a single playoff game. So the big boys have been playing Barkov, Reinhart, Bennett, not only back-to-back Cup finals, but the 4 nations. So I understand, hey, maybe there'll be a fatigue aspect, but it's probably one of the better conditioned teams in the league. Maurice works them hard on purpose in training camp, and they're definitely very careful on how hard they push them at the end of the year, which is why they probably slipped in the standings a bit, because they kind of just said, we don't care who we play in the first round. We don't care if we have home ice advantage, whether we're playing Toronto, Tampa. Maurice said Ottawa. Now, I think if the Panthers were playing Ottawa, it's probably a sweep in the first round. But the other two teams, Toronto and Tampa, they're kind of similar, the Panthers think, in terms of how competitive they'd be in the first round series. So they said, let's just get everyone rested. We know Kachuk's coming back at some point. It took until warm-ups yesterday. That's all I'll say on that. But, yeah, I mean, the team was rested, and they came out hungry, very hungry. I wasn't expecting 6-2. I thought this game could have went either way, but, yeah, that was definitely not the result I was expecting.
You know, I was watching Paul Maurice right after the game, and he, you know, the reporters were like kind of like lobbing like layups to him to sort of talk about how like that win sets the tone, and like he didn't take the bait. Like he was pretty emphatic about how he didn't really feel like last night. Like, it obviously you always want to win, so it's not to say he's not happy the Panthers took game one, but that he didn't really feel like the flow of game one really taught him anything about the series moving forward. Like he mentioned, not a whole lot of 5-on-5 time. There were so many power plays, and I think half the goals scored were power played goals. So did you kind of feel the same way? Like did last night give you sort of a barometer on how the rest of the series could go or not?
I think it was definitely a one-off game, 16 shots, 6 goals. They didn't test Vasilevsky a lot, but they beat him. And I think I was talking on a podcast last night, and one of the Schmidt does happen. One of the anchors said, you know, I kind of wanted to see a little more shots. And I said, well, I agree you want to see 30 shots in a playoff game. Who doesn't? With a goaltender like Vasilevsky, if you're peppering him with 35 shots, he's going to get into a rhythm at some point. But when you score 6 on 16, that's probably sitting in the back of his head like, what the heck just happened? I'm one of the best goalies ever. But if we look at what actually happened last night, the Panthers limited their big boys' minutes. Kachuk played under 12. Sam Bennett played under 12. Barkov played under 20. No forward went over 20. They knew they had that game in the driver's seat, and they didn't slow down on the pedal, but they kind of just controlled the game at that point. They weren't trying to make too many plays. They weren't trying to push for offense, which is Florida Panthers playoff hockey, kind of locking it down when they know they have a game in control. I don't expect this to be a sweep. I don't expect this to be 5. I still think it's going 6-7 the distance. If Tampa loses game 2, then they're in trouble because Aaron Ekblad is coming back in game 3. And the Panthers blue line looked very good last night. Nate Schmidt, who's going to be the 6th hole when Ekblad comes back, scored twice. They were cooking last night.
Well, I mean, that's my overall point here, is that any concern that you would have had about this team going to the playoffs, I thought they alleviated during the regular season. Did they have an elite regular season? No, they ended up with 98 points, something along those lines. But every time they got in a pocket where they looked complacent, they dug themselves out of it. They, as you mentioned, they've lost some depth forwards from last year, and obviously some changes on defense as well. But they added pieces to replace. They've got a scratch line that would probably be a 3rd or 4th line on most teams. I mean, guys that played quite a bit for them this year. You mentioned that last night. And again, we really haven't seen, like, they had Marchand, but they didn't have Kachuk. So we haven't seen the full sort of power of their offense with all of these guys healthy. Reinhart had an elite season. We know Barkov is Barkov. Verhaeghe did not have a great year, but he's better in the playoffs. So I don't know. It feels to me like any of these sort of elite champion teams that just kind of know, like you don't need to turn it on all the time because they'll turn it on when they need to. But I don't feel like they got ultra complacent in the regular season and now they can't find, it's like when you say find another gear, I think they'll be able to find it. I mean, to me, my biggest concern is there going to be any point that Bob hits a wall? I mean, that other than that, like, they're going to score. Like, I'm not concerned about their scoring. They've got 6-7 guys who can get you a couple goals in a game if the right opportunities are there. But are you comfortable with Bob carrying them for another run here?
The thing is, I don't know if Bob has to, and I say that because the Lightning only got 22 shots last night. One of the goals was on the power play. It was a rebound. Bob thought he had it. There was one pure missed assignment on the Braden Point goal, and I mean, he's one of the best players in the league. If you leave him wide open like that, they're going to score. But they've done a relatively good job last night of kind of limiting it to the perimeter. And that was the story last postseason where they were winning these games by like 1 goal, maybe get an empty netter. Bob made big saves at certain times during the postseason last year, but it wasn't necessarily the same extent of the 23 run where he was saving them and he basically won them that Carolina series. You want your goalie to be hot, but I don't think Bob needs to steal them a series with the construction of this specific roster. They're the deepest Panthers team they've ever had. They're deeper than last year's team. I think top to bottom, that 5th line scratch line is a 4th line on almost every single line, team in the NHL. The Bobrovsky doesn't need to steal them a series.
Mm-hmm. So something else. Yeah. Well, I want to talk about Tkachuk last night because you mentioned like this came all the way down to warm-ups and luckily, as you mentioned, like they had the luxury given, going up 5-1 that they were able to use him for less than 12 minutes of ice time, which was ideal. But in that 11:43 of ice time, after not playing hockey for 2 months, the guy makes his return in the playoffs, which to me is even more impressive to not play 2 months and then you're back in the postseason and to have a 3-point night, 2 goals and an assist. I mean, were you surprised not only at his return, but what kind of an impact he was able to have after, again, not having played, in over 2 months?
There was definitely some worry going in, like how ready would Matthew Tkachuk be? He wasn't skating with the team until Saturday. He had 2 full practices, and Saturday was probably the only one where they were really going hard. He was skating a little bit on his own beforehand, but the Panthers like getting their guys in a couple practices, heavy practices before they throw them into a game. But when it's playoff season and he's healthy, they're not going to sit Matthew Tkachuk because he hasn't got a couple reps. He's not the fastest guy in the world, and that's not his game. Speed's not his game. What his game is sticking his butt out there, getting in people's faces, mucking it up in front of the net, and that's exactly how he played. So I thought it was as Matthew Tkachuk a performance as you could have. I was at the Four Nations face-off. That's exactly how he played there. He's a playoff gamer, and I'm not surprised at all that he had that kind of impact.
Yeah, I feel good about them. I don't know. I just I think they did what they needed to do. They got their core pieces healthy for the playoffs. And that's, I mean, in that sport, that's what you're looking for. Just remind people though where it goes from here. So if they were to beat Tampa, again, we're not guaranteeing anything. We obviously know Vasi's going to be better than he was in game 1. He can't be worse. So I agree with you. Probably go 6 games, something along those lines. But what would be the path after that?
Well, the path for this series is whoever wins this one gets the Atlantic Division Series winner. And I say that because it's the Toronto Maple Leafs who won the division against the Ottawa Senators. The Senators took it to overtime yesterday after the Leafs blew a 2-goal lead, except the Senators weren't playing physical hockey in overtime and let Max Domi snipe one. So Leafs go up 2-0. They get one more game in Ottawa. They're probably going to win that series. So whoever wins this series is going to hit the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I said coming into the playoffs, the 2 teams I'd be scared of the most in the Eastern Conference come playoff time, the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers. Been there before. Both teams kind of retooled a little bit over the last couple of years. Tampa loses Stamkos, brings in Jake Gensel, who scores 40 goals. They lose Sergachev. They bring in Moser. Hagel's had a career year. So they're going to get Toronto or Ottawa. It's looking like Toronto just of how those first 2 games in the series goes. And obviously Toronto's going to have home ice. And then after that, it's going to be the conference final. So that's the path for this specific series.
Yeah, well, Toronto can start the We Want Florida stuff again. Alex, appreciate it. Follow his work on 5reasonsports.com. Donno and I will be back tomorrow. I've ignored it long enough. We'll talk NFL draft. Yes, we will speculate about how the Dolphins F this up again. Alex, appreciate you. Thank you, both of you. Check out our sponsors, All Pro Construction, Prize Picks. Get in the contest. Bam's PRA for tonight. Points, rebounds, and assists. How close will we be to 33.5? Have a good one, everybody.